Did you know that in the last century, wherever and whenever anti-Zionism was allowed to become the dominant ideology of any country, any society, any political party, ultimately, no Jews were left. For many years now, I participated in quite a few high-profile debates over the question of whether anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. And I lost those debates. Because when you make the blanket statement, then the other side will speak of the Satmar Jews, who are theologically opposed to secular Zionism. They bring the JVP, I don't think they're Jews, but JVP Jews, and then the whole blanket statement falls. So after a few of those debates, especially seeing the response of the audience that seemed to be so thrilled that they can now pretend that anti-Zionism is a benign idea, I decided to look at history. I wanted to see what happens to real-life Jews when anti-Zionism becomes the governing ideology of a place. And here the historical record is definite. Wherever in the last century anti-Zionism was introduced as the governing ideology, as this respectable idea, distancing itself from the old discredited anti-Semitism, everywhere it happened, within a short while, the place became hostile to Jewish life, individually and collectively, and if it was not stopped, within a few short years, no Jews were left. The Arab world, Exhibit A. In the 1940s and 50s, the Arab world literally organizes itself around anti-Zionism. It is only unified insofar as they are all against the existence of a Jewish state. It becomes their governing ideology, and Palestinianism becomes the secular theology behind which it hides. And they claimed, they protested, they love Jews, they have nothing against Jews. But within those 2 decades, when anti-Zionism became the governing ideology of the Arab world, from Morocco to Afghanistan, no Jews were left. Complete ethnic cleansing of about 1 million Jews, some of them from communities predating the Arab and Muslim conquest of the 7th century of the Middle East and North Africa. We are talking in Iraq, for example, in communities that date back to the Babylonian exile. The Soviet Union, Exhibit B, literally the place that invented anti-Zionism as the respectable mask. The Soviet Union does not get enough credit for its introduction of anti-Zionism into the global mainstream and really taking it global. You know, when the Soviet Union was established replacing Tsarist Russia, it wanted to do nothing to have with anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism belonged to the Tsar. So the Soviets replaced Tsarist anti-Semitism, using the word Zion, with the respectable anti-Zionism. You could get academic degrees in anti-Zionism. All the Palestinian leaders in the 60s, 70s, 80s, all the operatives, they were trained, they were educated in the Soviet Union. You could get a PhD in anti-Zionism. Abu Mazen, he got his PhD in one version of that, of Holocaust denial. And from there, the Soviet Union exported to the West, where it flourishes on campuses today. And another element of their playbook was to give the vilest idea about Zionism. Zionism is racism, apartheid, colonialism, genocide, Nazism. None of these things are new. They introduced the idea of giving it respectability by laundering it through international bodies. And we know how the Soviet Union treated its Jews, as it claimed to actually not notice that they were Jews. It was just against Zionism. And Iran, a community of 150,000 reduced to 8,000. Poland in 1968. Did you know that actually some Jews remained in Poland after the Holocaust, believing in the promise of socialism and communism and that they will all be brothers? And in 1968, Poland was gripped by this idea of anti-Zionism inspired by the Soviet Union, removing Jews from academic positions. And whatever Jews still were left in Poland, all left, and some even committed suicide, unable to bear the second persecution, this time under the more respectable mask. Venezuela, Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party, every place that made anti-Zionism its governing ideology became inhospitable to Jewish life, and ultimately no Jews were left. So you're wondering what's happening on American campuses today? This is the playing out of this dynamic. It actually doesn't matter what the students believe. The students can genuinely believe that they love Jews, they have nothing against Jews. In fact, they could be Jews themselves. It doesn't matter, because they are participating in something that has a lineage much longer than themselves, something that started much before they were even born, a process of vilifying everything that is Zionism, Israel, making it so evil that people believe that all means are necessary and justified to eradicate that evil. Did you see the placard that says, keep the world clean, with the Star of David and the trash bin. This is the logical conclusion of what I've come to call the placard strategy. The placard strategy is what the Soviets did. They're very simple. It says Israel, Zionism, Star of David, then an equation sign. And the placard strategy has been so successful and ingenious that you all know what's on the other side of that equation sign. Colonialism, imperialism, racism, apartheid, then it escalates. Nazism, genocide. If you're in America, they'll give it a local flavor of white supremacy. These words are not chosen because they reflect reality, even though they'll try to pretend it does. They're chosen because they are all universally agreed to be evil. Israel, Zionism, Star of David equals evil. And a young person on campus today, they want to do good. And there's no greater good in this world than eradicating evil. So yes, of course they mobilize. But what they don't understand is that the sentiment of keep the world clean, that idea that the collective Jew stands between this world and utopia, is one of the most ancient and dangerous ideas.